Hello again, everybody. I'm back with the second and much more interesting mission of the Orange Star campaign. Things are still pretty easy, but we do need to get tactical this time, because the enemy has a large number of dangerous units. Now Flax has a good point here for once. Tanks really are very formidable units. They'll often be your bread and butter. Great mobility, great defense, great firepower, and a low cost. He has 3 tanks to our 1, and our tanks are weaker. But, with good tactics that won't matter at all. Both sides have pretty much the same dialogue about spotting the enemy on the other side of the river. I guess we just kind of blundered into each other. Certainly does happen in wars. As I've said, this game tends toward a very episodic kind of campaign. Each mission tends to have its own little self-contained story, and they work well enough. I never thought about this before, but if this is deep in Orange Star territory, why is this mission called Border Skirmish? One peculiarity about this series, as well as Fire Emblem by the same game designer, is that we're often privy to secret enemy conversations. We get to hear what they're planning. As you can see, we do have a city on the far side of the river, so they will capture that from us. Capturing will be crucial in later missions, but it's not so important this time. He does a good explanation for an idiot. And I think it's good writing to make the point about reducing the building's capture number by your infantry's HP, because Sammy doesn't follow that rule, so if they didn't explain that, people might be confused on subsequent missions when you're not playing as Sammy. Okay, that city across the river is not at all important anyway, so we'll let it get captured. The only way to stop them anyway would be to send our tank on a suicide charge across the river. Not at all worth it. Now I talked about this last time, terrain defense stars. Every terrain has between 0 and 4 stars, representing between 0% and 40% defensive bonuses. So, they have a tank, we have a tank, but their tank is a little bit better than ours actually. This mission seems like a good time to start talking about COs, commanding officers. So we are playing as Sammy this time, and Sammy is an infantry specialist. So they say her foot soldiers move further, but that's not actually true. Her transports move farther. The important thing is that her infantry capture faster, which is very powerful, and they also do about 30% more damage. Another bad translation here is that she's not weak versus vehicles, she's weak using vehicles. Specifically, all her direct combat vehicles, and planes and ships, are weak. I'll get to CO powers and superpowers later on, doesn't really matter for this chapter. As you can see here, her infantry and mechs have a 30% power increase, and her transport units have +1 movement. Those are all very powerful bonuses that give Sammy big economic advantages. But she has some serious flaws too. Those little blue bars everywhere indicate that almost all of her units have weakened firepower, 90%. Every single direct combat ground unit, air unit, or sea unit. That's a lot of units that she's bad with. Flak, on the other hand, is completely balanced with all units. At least, so the game says. In truth, he effectively has some penalties to all units. Hawk apparently promoted him, which really reflects badly on the otherwise competent Hawk. Now they say high firepower, but once again this is quite inaccurate. What they're trying to talk about here is the luck mechanic. He doesn't actually have high firepower overall, he tends to have low firepower. On average he'll tend to do about 2% less damage than every other CO. I'll save the full discussion of how luck works for future missions where it's more relevant. Now I could attack with this mechanized infantry, dealing massive damage to their tank. That's what mech stands for in this game, I believe. They aren't anything like actual mechanized infantry. They're kind of just heavy infantry with bazookas, but whatever. The alternative is to attack first with the tank. Mechs are kind of glass cannons. They deal very high damage, but they also take very high damage. In this case, I'd rather use my much sturdier tank to set up the mech to get the easy finishing blow. I should attack from the northward to leave the south one open for the mech to attack from. 49% damage, much like my infantry attacking their guy in the plains last mission. A lot of same unit versus same unit fights in the Advanced Wars have 55% as the base damage, and then in this case I have 10% attack penalty because I'm playing as Sammy. Last time it was 10% attack penalty because of the plane, so that reduces 55% to 49% in both cases. Okay, the mech easily wipes them out. And units that get killed can't fire back, so I take no damage whatsoever on this fragile mech. Artillery are our first range units, indirect combat units. They have several peculiar mechanics that are very important and will get explained right now. First of all, yes, it's crucial that they can't counterattack. That makes them very vulnerable. And yes, not being able to fire after moving also limits them greatly. Because of those huge weaknesses, they're not that useful in the campaign, really. But they can be absolutely crucial in human versus human matchups, especially in Fog of War. They are extremely cost-effective against heavy ground units regardless, though. Anyway, they have a range of 2 to 3 squares, so I'll position mine here where it covers that river bridge choke point. And I'll have my infantry run up and start capturing that neutral property. Being gray indicates that it's neutral. Sammy captures everything 50% faster, as you can see, which isn't actually as useful as you would think against the AI. It still takes her 2 turns to capture anything, same as any CO. Where it really comes in handy though is in multiplayer matches where you'll often be taking fire while you're trying to capture things, and then be able to complete the capture anyway because you had such a good head start makes a huge difference. Sammy's captures are very hard to interrupt. Considering that Sammy is a veteran of the previous war and also is not an idiot like Andy, it's kind of odd that Nell has to explain this to her. So yes, every property that we control gives us 1,000 money per turn. More importantly, for this mission they give us very good defensive cover and they repair our units. Dislodging a defender from a city next to a bridge is very difficult. I think I'll drive my APC over here and replenish the tank shots and the mech bazooka ammo. Mechs are one of the few units that actually can run out of ammo easily. They only have 3 shots with their bazookas. And once they have to fall back to their machine guns, they stop doing good damage to vehicles. Okay, Flak. As we expected, he's capturing our city. I said the only way to stop that would be to drive out our tank full speed last turn. But that would have been a suicide charge, because you can see that his tanks are in position to defend his infantry if we attacked it. So what we'll do instead is put it onto the city to get repaired up to full. Cities heal units by 2 HP per turn, and they charge you money proportionally to the unit's price and how much HP you healed. A tank costs 7,000, so healing one of its 10 HP will cost us 700 gold next turn. I assume G stands for gold, I really don't know. You can see that number in the top left. I think Nell will start talking about it shortly. As you can see, we have 6,000 funds, which is more than enough for all our purposes for this mission. Repairs are pretty cheap, and we can't build any troops on this mission. So, onto the city we go, and as I think you can see, we're just outside the range of both of his tanks, so we can heal up undisturbed. And I'll advance my artillery a little bit further to even more thoroughly cover his possible advance. I'm considering whether to drop my mech over in the north to go for an HQ capture. That's a pretty fast way to end this mission if you do it right. On the other hand, I could really use my mech's combat power down in the south where there'll be a lot of fighting, and infantry are faster walking, so I'll do that with the infantry instead. It is quite possible that they will block me from their HQ with their APC, but that's still a good outcome for me. The main challenge in this mission to getting a perfect score is that they'll often run their APC back and you can't kill it in time. Flak made a very silly move here. He ran right into artillery range instead of stopping outside it. As I mentioned, the AI gets considerably smarter in future games, but this one is still an improvement over Advance Wars 1. Well, that pretty much cripples that second tank. I could drive mine forward and finish it off, but that would leave me in a less good defensive position. I don't see much benefit to it, actually. Just double check the enemy attack range to make sure that they can't harass me as I try to drop my infantry across the river for the capture. You can drop infantry into rivers, which they can cross, but not seas. This north thing is a sea. I'll keep my mech conveniently nearby, but not in range where they can get first strike on him. I need to keep an eye out for his infantry, which can cross rivers and could therefore come across and attack the mech if I'm not careful. Even infantry also do noticeable damage to artillery. They're not sturdy units. Okay, I'm going to make a go for his HQ. So I'll have my artillery shoot at his uninjured tank this time, because my tank can easily finish off his critically wounded one. Different HP values for his 2 tanks due to different luck results on my attacks. The reason he didn't attack me, by the way, is that it would have been suicide. He would have done almost no damage with his 3 HP tank and then died in the counterattack. Now, of course, the smart thing to do would be to drive back to repair it. But in my observation, there's a pattern where the AI will tend not to drive back if they're at above 2 HP. I don't know exactly what governs the AI, I just kind of observe that as their usual behavior. Now, I expect he'll attack my infantry. Yeah, he's going for it. But that's not a problem at all, because even with this damage, because I'm playing a Sammy, I can capture in 2 turns. And he's in range of my tank to finish him off anyway. The alternative was use my mech to kill one of his tanks last turn and leave my city choke point. That would have worked just fine too, of course, but I wanted to make the point here about how effective Sammy is. So I'll move my infantry into this safe zone, which is right in range of their HQ. So, now I'll use my artillery and a mech to clear a path for my tank to go up and finish off their tank, leaving my infantry unstoppable. This does, of course, let them get a free hit on my mech next turn. Doesn't really matter, though. I mean, I'll win by capture before they have a chance to kill anything. They could alternatively go for the artillery if I left it unblocked. Okay, so I'll finish off that tank, leaving my infantry home free to rush to their HQ and start capturing it. If I stand by APC here, it will block them from attacking the artillery. meaning that to attack my mech they'll have to stay in artillery range to get wiped out. I'm on lousy terrain here, so I'll take some pretty hefty damage. But now I can easily wipe them out. Whereas vehicles blow up, you notice infantry bloodlessly fly off screen instead. Team Black Hole blasting off again. So an ordinary CO would have captured only 8 out of 20 here, but because I'm playing as Sammy as I wanted to demonstrate, I captured 12 out of 20 instead. It's day 7 and 8 days is the victory time limit, so here we go, a perfect score. There's no in-game indication of what the speed limit for any given mission is, by the way. You pretty much just have to look it up. Yap, shut your trap. Black Poetry Night. Sadly, she never gets the chance.
Mission complete.
There we go, another perfect speed score and a cool little drawing of a river. I guess the one that we fought over. He will, in fact, get away every single time. Some of you may be wondering, by the way, why I'm not just skipping to the hard campaign. Besides completionism, actually, some of the missions in this normal campaign are harder than the hard campaign equivalents. Harder to get perfect scores, that is. And the reason for that is that a lot of the speed limits get more generous in the hard campaign. Well, onward to the next mission. Have a great day, everyone.